My name is Nathan. I'm 36 years old. And the last thing my father said to me before he slammed the door of his study was this: "You are a mistake I have been correcting for 36 years. You are worth nothing. You have built nothing. And when I am gone, you will receive nothing." He said it slowly. He wanted me to remember every word. I did. What he didn't know was that 40 feet down the hallway, in the guest room I had slept in since I was 7 years old, there was a briefcase on the bed. Inside that briefcase was a document I had not yet shown anyone in that house. A document that had been locked in the office of a man named Gerald Fitch, estate attorney. Fitch and Moreland, Columbus, Ohio, for 11 years. A document my grandfather had signed on a Tuesday morning in October of 2013, 3 weeks before the first stroke took his speech, and 6 months before the second one took the rest of him. My father had been telling me I was worth nothing for as long as I could remember. He was wrong about that. He was wrong about almost everything. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the house where I grew up. Brentwood Drive, Dublin, Ohio. Colonial style. 4 bedrooms. A garage my father used as an office. And a backyard with a rusted swing set nobody ever took down. The kind of house that looks like a Christmas card from the outside and feels like a waiting room on the inside. My father's name is Richard Dale Hargrove. He ran a mid-sized commercial contracting company, Hargrove Build Group, that his own father, my grandfather, James Hargrove T., had started in 1971 with 2 trucks and a line of credit from a local savings bank in Worthington. By the time I was born, the company had 30 employees and a solid regional reputation. By the time I was 12, it had 110 employees and a new headquarters off Sawmill Road. My grandfather built that. My father managed it. Those are 2 different things, and my grandfather knew the difference. I also had a brother. His name is Derek. He is 2 years older than me. He has our father's jaw, our father's handshake, and our father's particular talent for walking into a room and letting everyone else feel smaller. From the time we were children, the structure of our family was simple. Derek was the plan. I was the question nobody had asked. Derek played varsity baseball, took the business track at Upper Arlington, shadowed my father at job sites on weekends. I read. I sketched. I stayed in my room and built things out of whatever I could find. Circuit boards, old radios, cardboard and wire. My mother, Linda, was kind in the quiet way that people are kind when they are afraid of the person standing next to them. She put food on my plate. She attended my science fair. She did not defend me when my father talked over me at dinner. I don't blame her the way I used to. The summer I turned 22, I told my father I wanted to go to graduate school, electrical engineering. Ohio State had offered me a partial scholarship. I needed $12,000 to cover the rest of the first year. He laughed. Not a mean laugh, a dismissive one, like I had asked him to explain a joke he'd already heard. "Derek is running the Southeast Division next year," he said. "I need capital in the business. Not thrown at a degree for a kid who can't hold down a job site." I had never been offered a job site. I'd never been asked. I didn't go to graduate school. I found work at a small electronics firm in Columbus doing product testing. I rented an apartment off 5th Avenue. I called my mother on Sundays. I did not call my father. For the next 8 years I built. Not the way my father built, not with other people's labour and a family name. I built alone. A small tech startup, Creston Signal Systems, developing wireless monitoring equipment for industrial infrastructure. Bridge sensors, pipeline monitors, grid fault detectors. Unglamorous, invisible, essential work. I maxed out 2 credit cards in year 1. I slept on a cot in my office for 4 months in year 2. In year 3, I got a contract with a municipal utility in Cleveland that changed everything. By the time I was 34, Creston had 22 employees, a clean balance sheet, and a letter of intent from a private equity firm in Chicago, valuing the company at just under $9 million. I told nobody in my family. I want you to understand why. It wasn't pride, it wasn't secrecy for its own sake. It was because I'd spent 34 years being told what I was worth by people who had never once asked what I was building. I wasn't ready to hand them that number. Not yet. My grandfather was the only one who had ever asked. James Hargrove. 78 years old when I last sat with him, a Tuesday morning in October 2013, in the sunroom of his house in Worthington. He was already going slow by then. His hands shook when he poured coffee, but his eyes were clear, and they were on me the whole time we talked. He asked me what I was working on. I told him. Sensors, wireless signal systems, infrastructure monitoring. He nodded like a man who understood work from the inside. Your father thinks business is about presence, he said. Being seen at the right table, shaking the right hand. He's not wrong that it matters. But he doesn't know what comes before the table, Nathan, you do. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I've made some arrangements. Gerald Fitch has the paperwork. Don't go looking for it before it's time. You'll know when it's time. I asked him what that meant. He smiled. Small loop on the left side of his mouth, the same smile in every photograph I had of him. It means I know which one of my grandsons built something, he said. He died 6 months later, February 2014. The second stroke came fast. By the time I got to the hospital, he was already gone. At the reading of his will, Gerald Fitch's office, March 2014, my grandfather left the house in Worthington and his personal savings, approximately $340,000, to my father. Standard. Expected. My father nodded like a man accepting what was owed to him. There was one additional item. A sealed trust, the James A. Hargrove Discretionary Trust, established October 2013. Fitch read the terms. The trust held assets to be determined at time of distribution. Distribution was contingent on a condition. The beneficiary would be identified by Fitch upon satisfaction of a single qualifying criterion to be evaluated by Fitch alone, in his sole professional judgment, with no input from any Hargrove family member. My father's attorney leaned over and whispered something. My father looked at Fitch. What's the criterion? I'm not at liberty to share that, Mr. Hargrove. The trust was constructed specifically to prevent the condition from being influenced by family pressure. My father looked at Derek. Derek looked at my father. Neither of them looked at me. I drove home alone that afternoon. I sat in my apartment and I thought about what my grandfather had said in that sunroom. You'll know when it's time. I filed the thought somewhere quiet and I went back to work. The call came on a Wednesday in September of last year. Gerald Fitch's office. His assistant. Mr. Fitch would like to schedule a meeting with Nathan Hargrove at your earliest convenience. The matter pertains to the James A. Hargrove Discretionary Trust. I drove to Fitch's office on a Thursday morning. He was 81 years old, thin, precise, the kind of man whose desk had nothing on it that wasn't supposed to be there. He shook my hand and sat down and looked at me the way my grandfather used to look at me. I've been watching Creston Signal Systems, he said. I said nothing. Your grandfather's criterion was this. The trust distribution would go to the grandchild who, quote, builds something of his own that stands without the family name. Fitch and Moorland has monitored both your career and your brother's career since 2014. Your brother Derek has served as a division manager at Hargrove Build Group his entire adult life. The company was founded by your grandfather. The name on Derek's business card is your grandfather's name. He paused. Creston Signal Systems, founded by Nathan James Hargrove, registered in Ohio in 2016. No family capital, no family contracts, no Hargrove Build Group business. $9 million valuation letter of intent from Meridian Capital Partners, Chicago. He set a document on the desk in front of me. The trust holds 40% of the original Hargrove Build Group equity, which your grandfather retained privately and never disclosed to your father. He retained it specifically so it could not be inherited directly. At current company valuation, 40% of Hargrove Build Group is worth approximately $4.2 million. I looked at the document, my grandfather's signature at the bottom, October 14th, 2013. Your father does not know this equity exists, Fitch said. He has been operating under the assumption that he owns 100% of the company. The room was very quiet. He doesn't. Now I need you to understand what happened next. Because this is where the story changes. If you've ever been told you are worth nothing by the one person who was supposed to believe in you, drop a single word in the comments right now. Whatever word you're feeling, I read every one of them tonight. I did not call my father that day. I did not call Derek. I called my own attorney, a woman named Sylvia Park, Baird and Park, Columbus. I had worked with her on the Creston Incorporation and the PE letter of intent. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, which was the thing I had always valued about her. "Nathan," she said when I finished, "does your father know Fitch has been in contact with you?" "No." "Does anyone in your family know the PE deal is close to closing?" "No." "Good. Don't tell them. Let me talk to Fitch. Give me 2 weeks." She called me back in 11 days. "Here's what your grandfather did," she said. "He set up the trust in 2013, knowing your father would fight it if he knew it existed. So he structured it as a discretionary trust with a third-party professional trustee, Fitch, and no disclosure obligation to the family until distribution. Your father has been paying Hargrove Build Group's corporate taxes on the assumption he owns the company outright. He has not been paying taxes on 40% of the equity he doesn't actually own." She paused. "There is also a buy-in clause. When the trust distributes, the beneficiary, you, can either take the equity stake and become a 40% shareholder in Hargrove Build Group, or you can trigger a mandatory buyout provision, requiring the company to purchase the equity at fair market value within 90 days. $4.2 million. Which do you want to do, Nathan?" I thought about my grandfather in that sunroom. I thought about my father's study, the door slamming. "Your father told you I was worth nothing." "Neither yet," I said. "I want to be in the room when he finds out." Sylvia was quiet for 3 seconds. "That," she said, "I can arrange." The meeting was set for a Saturday morning in November. Fitch's office. Sylvia had sent a formal notice to Richard Dale, Hargrove, and Derek Allen Hargrove, trustees and officers of Hargrove Build Group LLC, that a matter pertaining to the estate of James A. Hargrove required their attendance. The letter did not name me. I arrived 20 minutes early. I sat in Fitch's conference room, and I drank coffee from a paper cup, and I thought about the swing set in the backyard that nobody ever took down. My father arrived at 9:02. He wore his blue blazer, the one he wore to every meeting he considered important. Derek was with him. They walked in together, and they stopped in the doorway when they saw me. My father's face did what it always did when it encountered something unexpected. It went still. Not calm. Still. "What is he doing here?" Fitch stood. "Please sit down, Richard. Both of you." "Why is Nathan in this meeting?" "Because Nathan is the reason for this meeting. Please sit down." They sat. Derek glanced at me sideways. He was trying to read my face the way he had always tried to read me, looking for something he could use. I gave him nothing. Fitch opened his folder. He walked them through it the same way he had walked me through it. The trust, the criterion, the 40% equity stake, the 11 years of independent monitoring, the discretionary distribution. My father's face moved through 3 separate expressions in 30 seconds. Confusion, recognition. Something I can only describe as a man understanding that the ground he has been standing on was not his. "That equity belongs to the company," my father said. His voice was careful. "Controlled. He was performing control." "It belonged to your father," Fitch said. "He retained it. He had the legal right to do so. He was a 50% original founder of the company. He held his equity privately. You were aware of this possibility." "I was not aware." "Richard?" Fitch placed a page on the table. "This is the shareholders' agreement you signed in 2001 when you bought out your father's operational control of the company. Section 14, paragraph C. Quote, the retained equity interests of James A. Hargrove, if any, shall remain subject to James A. Hargrove's sole discretion as to transfer, bequest, or other disposition. You sign this." My father looked at the page. His wedding ring tapped the table twice. I had heard that tap my whole life at dinner tables, at his desk, in cars. The sound a man makes when he is thinking about how to win something. "He can't leave a stake in my company to Nathan." He said my name like it was a procedural error. "He can. He did. The trust has been validated by 2 independent estate attorneys and reviewed by the Ohio Secretary of State's office. The distribution is lawful." Derek spoke for the first time. "What does Nathan even do with 40% of Dad's company?" Sylvia spoke from her chair beside me. "Mr. Hargrove, Nathan has 2 options under the trust's buyout provision. He can join the company as a 40% equity shareholder with the corresponding governance rights, or he can trigger the mandatory buyout at fair market value, which Fitch and Moorland has independently assessed at $4.2 million, payable within 90 days of distribution. The room was very quiet. My father looked at me for a long moment, and then something happened that I had not expected. The performance cracked. Not all at once, just at the edges. His jaw shifted. His eyes went somewhere I hadn't seen them go before. He reached across the conference table. He wanted to look like a man making a reasonable gesture. He almost pulled it off. "Nathan, son, we can handle this privately. Whatever Gerald has given you on paper, we can structure a better arrangement inside the family. Derek and I can..." "Dad." He stopped. "Do you remember the last thing you said to me in your study?" He said nothing. "You told me I was a mistake you had been correcting for 36 years. You told me I was worth nothing." Derek looked at the table. "I want to tell you what I am worth, Dad, not what you think, what the market actually says." Sylvia slid a document across the table. The Meridian Capital Letter of Intent. $9 million valuation. Creston Signal Systems. Founded by Nathan James Hargrove. My father looked at the number. He looked at my name. "I named the company after Grandpa James," I said. "The middle name. Nathan James. Creston. He told me to build something that stood without the family name. I did, and he rewarded me for it." My father sat back. He was not performing anymore. The blue blazer looked like a costume. But this was not the end. This was not even the biggest moment. Because 3 days later, Sylvia called me. "Nathan, I need you to sit down." I sat down. Fitch's team did a final audit of the Hargrove Build Group corporate records as part of the trust distribution process. Standard procedure, they need the current equity valuation verified against the company's actual books. "Okay." "The books don't match the tax filings." I said nothing. Hargrove Build Group has been reporting operating revenues of approximately $4.1 million annually for the last 6 years. The actual revenue run rate, based on bank records and contract invoices, is closer to $6.8 million. The number sat in the air between us. Your father has been underreporting company revenue by approximately $2.7 million a year for at least 6 years. $16 million. Nathan, this is not a trust matter anymore. This is a federal matter. Fitch is a mandatory reporter under Ohio estate law. He has already notified the IRS whistleblower office. I pressed the phone to my ear. Outside my office window, Columbus was going about its Saturday. A bus moved down the street. 2 people walked a dog. "Does Derek know?" I asked. "Derek is a signing officer of the company. He signs the quarterly revenue certifications." I put the phone down on my desk. I sat with that for a long time. My brother had stood at the top of the stairs that Sunday when I was 22, and my father told me not to make my college rejection a big deal in front of him. My brother had watched every birthday, every dinner, every Christmas where I was managed down and he was managed up, and for 6 years he had been signing documents that he either knew were false or had never bothered to check. I did not feel what I expected to feel. I did not feel satisfaction. I felt tired. And then I felt something quieter than anger and much more durable. I picked the phone back up. I called Sylvia. "What do I need to do?" "Nothing," she said. "The IRS has it now. All you need to do is cooperate with the estate process and wait." I waited. The indictment came in February. Richard Dale Hargrove, federal tax fraud, 6 counts. Underreporting of gross business income. Filing of materially false corporate returns. Derek Allen Hargrove, 1 count, negligent certification of false financial records. Derek's attorney negotiated cooperation in exchange for a reduced charge. His cooperation was substantial. The Columbus Dispatch ran the story on a Thursday. Local contractor indicted on federal tax fraud charges. Company founder's son faces 6 counts. Hargrove Build Group faces possible dissolution. I read it at my desk. I did not forward it. I did not call anyone. What I did was this. I called Fitch's office and triggered the mandatory buyout provision. $4.2 million. 90 days. With a company under federal investigation and a dissolution proceeding pending, Hargrove Build Group did not have $4.2 million liquid. They had two options: find a buyer or default. Sylvia had already been in contact with Meridian Capital, the private equity firm that had written the letter of intent on Creston. I had told Meridian's lead partner, a man named Graham Holt, that there was a distressed asset situation developing in Ohio construction that might be of interest. He was interested. Meridian acquired Hargrove Build Group's operational assets out of the dissolution proceedings for $1.8 million. The buyout obligation to my trust was satisfied from the proceeds as the senior creditor claim. I received $4.2 million in March. The remainder went to creditors and legal fees. Hargrove Build Group, the company my grandfather started in 1971, the company my father had run for 30 years, the company Derek had managed for 12, it was sold in pieces in a federal proceeding on a Wednesday morning, and nobody in the family was there to watch it happen. I was in my office. I had a meeting about a new bridge monitoring contract in Indiana. My father pled guilty in April. 18 months federal, 3 years supervised release. His attorney argued mitigating circumstances. The judge was not moved. Derek was not indicted. He cooperated and he kept his certification license. Last I heard, he was working as a project manager for a mid-sized commercial builder in Cincinnati. He called me once. I let it go to voicemail. He said he was sorry. He said he hadn't known the full extent. He said he thought about calling me for years. I saved the voicemail. I did not delete it. I have not called him back, maybe someday. My mother called me the week the story ran. She was already living separately from my father by then. She had moved into a small house in Worthington, 2 streets from where my grandfather used to live. I think she chose the street on purpose. She said, "Nathan, I didn't know." I believed her. "I know, Mum. I should have seen it. I should have..." "Mum," I stopped her. "I'm not angry at you. I just need some time." She said she understood. She said she would wait. I call her now. Not every week, but often enough. She told me last month that she drove past the old Hargrove Build Group headquarters off Sawmill Road, and there's a different sign on the building now, a logistics company from out of state. She said it quietly, the way she says most things. I told her it was okay. There is one more thing, the thing I have not told anyone except Sylvia and my accountant, the $4.2 million from the trust distribution. I used $2.1 million to pay down the Creston operating line and buy out one of my early investors who wanted liquidity. I used $600,000 for a facility expansion in Cleveland. The remaining $1.5 million I put into a foundation, the James A. Hargrove Foundation for first-generation engineering students, annual scholarships for students at Ohio State, the University of Akron, and Cleveland State who are pursuing degrees in electrical or mechanical engineering, and who have no family support for tuition. I named it after my grandfather because he asked me one question that nobody else in my family ever asked. "What are you building?" The first cohort was 8 students. One of them sent me a letter 2 months ago. Handwritten, notebook paper. His name at the top. Marcus Webb, 21, from Youngstown, Ohio. He wrote, "My dad told me I wasn't college material. He said engineering was for people who already had money and connections. I am writing this from a dorm room at Ohio State. I have a 3.8 GPA. I have your scholarship. I don't know your whole story, but I know you built something when someone told you that you couldn't. I'm going to do the same thing." I read that letter at my desk on a Tuesday evening. The Columbus skyline was going orange in the window. I read it twice. My grandfather knew something about me in a sunroom in October 2013 that my father never figured out in 36 years. He knew I would wait. He knew I would build something. He also knew I would use my hands to lift someone else when I was done. My father told me I was worth nothing. He was wrong by about $9 million, a federal indictment, and one letter from a kid in Youngstown who's going to build something the world doesn't know about yet. Some things you carry for years, and then one morning you set them down, and when your hands are finally empty, you find out what they were always meant to hold.